Open Carry USMC here. Before I get started on this next segment, there's a pesky little legal notice that I have to give you, so stand by for that. This first video is an overview of Oregon's firearms laws. Other videos will go into more depth with more detailed information, but this is the primer, the background information you should know. Oregon firearms laws for carrying are fairly simple. They're largely dictated by state law, which preempts local ordinances. The only local regulations that can be made, and those can only be made by cities and counties, are regarding the carry of loaded firearms by people who do not have a concealed handgun license, or CHL. Those without a CHL can still carry where local restrictions are in place, just not in a loaded condition. Only a few cities, mostly in the north, but not all of them, have enacted such ordinances. But remember, CHLs are exempt. Also, CHLs are shall issue in Oregon, so you don't need a compelling reason like in California and some other states. Unless you have a disqualifying record, the sheriff must issue you your license. People with a CHL can go almost anywhere in the state while carrying. Jails, secured areas of airports, court facilities, and federal facilities are about the only restrictions there are. If you don't have a CHL, there are more restrictions, mostly those areas I just covered. Government facilities, state, local, and federal. Most of the following ORSs are covered in more detail in other videos. Look for the ORS and subject in the video of the title. Of course, we have to have definitions, and there are several places to find definitions pertaining to firearms laws in our ORS. Most of the definitions are made for specific sections, though, so you can't assume that a codified definition applies throughout the law. For example, the definition of public building contained in ORS 166-360 is only applicable in ORSs 166-360 through 380. It seems silly, but that's the way the law works, and we have to deal with it. Definitions can be found in ORS 161.015, 166.210, and 166.360 for our purposes. ORS 166.170 is Oregon's firearms preemption statute. Together with 166.173, it states that unless expressly authorized by the state legislature, the only authority to regulate firearms in the state of Oregon is the legislature. It's the only authority unless they give it to someone else. They've given it to cities and counties only to restrict loaded firearms carried by non-CHL holders. Moving on to 166.220, it's unlawful use of a weapon. It requires that you use or intend to use a weapon against someone in an unlawful manner in order to violate that law. Don't worry about unlawful use of a weapon. If you've got a hothead, you shouldn't be carrying one, and if you're not, this isn't going to fall into place. 166.250 defines unlawful possession of firearms, including firearms concealed on the person, handguns concealed in vehicles, possession by minors, and a few other things. It also specifically states handguns carried in belt holsters are not concealed. What moves on to 166.260 immediately follows 250. It exempts certain people and groups from the provisions of 166.250. CHL holders, hunters and fishermen while hunting, fishing, or on their way to and from hunting and fishing, as well as a few other groups of people, are exempt from the provisions of 166.250. CHL holders are completely exempt from every part of it. Move on to 166.262, prohibits the police from arresting a CHL holder for carrying concealed on their person or in a vehicle or for possession in a public building. Now, this law says that they can't, but like I said before, doesn't mean they won't. But know that the law is on your side. 166.291 through 166.295 deal specifically with the procedures, requirements for issuing, denial, revocation, and renewal of concealed handgun licenses. 166.370 contains restrictions and exemptions for possession of firearms in a public building or court facility. I'll be going into depth on that one. 166.380, it allows examination of a firearm by a peace officer when in a public building and allows arrest if you refuse. So even though you're lawfully carrying with a CHL, you could be arrested if you don't allow that officer to inspect your firearm. Now this law is wholly unnecessary and it's unsafe. It needs to go away. More on that regulation in the video that covers this in more depth. Then there are the statutes that you're liable to be threatened with by law enforcement officers. Menacing, trespassing, and disorderly conduct seem to be their favorites. 163.190 covers menacing. 164.243 through 164.265 cover trespassing. And 166.023 and 025 are disorderly conduct. I'll go into more detail on these, but rest assured these are generally threats if it's all about the firearm. If you're doing something else, one of these may apply. Simply carrying your firearm, none of these will apply. There are a few other regulations to be aware of. Regulations on audio recording. Somehow in this state and some others, the state prosecutes audio recording in public as wiretapping. How they justify that, I have no clue. That's the status of the law right now. I'll have a video just on audio and video recording devices in the state of Oregon. Regulations that govern when and how you can be ejected from a sporting event. Say you go to the ball game, somebody notices your concealed weapon, just a bump in your clothing or whatever, or you're open carrying, and some schmuck comes up, tries to eject you. We'll go over the specific requirements of who and why they can eject you. Requirements for presenting ID, or rather in the state of Oregon, the lack of any such requirement, and we'll have a video on that as well, because that is one of the first things you're probably going to encounter with an officer, is let's see some ID. And number 4, consenting to searches. Enough said is don't. Never consent. And the Supreme Court case of Terry v. Ohio, which is very important, and there will be an entire video or more than one video on that alone, because that establishes when and how an officer can lawfully detain you, pat you down, disarm you, etc. And I'll be going into some of the nuances of that. Some of the cops don't even understand or pretend they don't. Well, that's it for this introductory video. I hope you got a little information out of this video, and you get a lot more out of the rest of this series with the more detailed information. I'm Open Carry USMC. Have a great day.